You're listening to the GC Collaborative Podcast, a resource for the worship arts team at Grace Church.
All right, so we have a confession. It's been a few months. We know.
Yeah.
We know that when we recorded the first episode, which was just basically like a trailer,
Yep.
we
Just
said,
get you
see you in a
excited.
couple weeks.
Yeah.
And then we left you hanging. And that was in February.
Weeks and months get confused sometimes, let's be honest.
Well, so that happened along with a worldwide pandemic. Mm-hmm. And and many other things have happened since then as well. So we're here now. That's what matters.
Yeah, let's focus on right now.
It's July.
Yep.
Last podcast we did was March 1st.
Yeah, March.
So we went from a monthly podcast to right out of the gate to a
quarterly,
very random quarterly podcast.
Quarterly podcast.
Either way, we are happy that you're listening. And my name's Ben, and over here to my right is...
You don't remember my name, do you?
Just say it. What is it?
Luke.
Luke, yes. Luke.
Embarrassed.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It happens.
It's our first podcast.
It's been a worldwide pandemic. That's my excuse for everything. I just say, if I fail at something, I just say worldwide pandemic.
Oh, absolutely.
So thanks for listening. We're glad you're here. And I hope you've been pleasantly surprised by the fact that your podcast app just downloaded the GC Collaborative show.
Oh, yeah.
So this is the official first one, right?
Yeah, and we got an exciting episode this time. I'm excited.
Why don't you tell the good people why this is exciting?
Well, we interviewed, or I guess
you did.
I did. I interviewed Jonathan Rasch. He is our production director for all of our campuses here at Grace Church, and it was just an awesome interview to hear kind of his heart behind it all. And production can obviously be a little bit of a hot topic in churches, of concert-like feels and stuff like that. And so it was just awesome to hear his heart of why he does what he does, and just kind of the heart behind all that they do at Grace Church. So I'm excited for people to hear it. Honestly, it's going to be really cool.
One of the reasons we talked about this was because we have a high value in our culture of worship, that worship is not just the music. I think typically people view worship as the first 20 minutes, or it's the prep, or the thing that gets you energized for a message. Well, that's not how we view the time that is spent worshiping God. And so it's not just the audible aspect, it's also visual.
Yes,
and Jonathan is amazing, because just like you said, in hearing his heart and hearing his passion for bringing visual worship to our services and our experiences is a very high value, and for him. And it's always fun to sit and listen to him unpack that and talk about it. So,
absolutely.
So we're excited about having you get a chance to hear the heart behind the production side of things. And as we mentioned, there has been a worldwide pandemic, and it's been an exciting, interesting past 3 to 4 months. And one of the things I will note that I want to say is that there are several folks involved in our worship ministry who kind of jumped to the call and have been doing some incredible things. We shifted our worship services online from an experience of witnessing a room worship to actually directly talking to and leading the people that are watching the worship services. And there's been a lot of awesome people behind the scenes making that stuff happen. And I just want to give a huge thank you and nod to those of you who have been sweating and making that stuff happen.
Absolutely. They've been killing it. Doing an amazing job. That's for sure.
Yeah. So excited about this episode. So hope you can sit back, enjoy, and listen to Jonathan.
Here we go. Well, everybody, welcome to our podcast. Today, we are talking to Jonathan. He is the production director here at Grace Church. He oversees all 3 campuses, plus our online campus on the production side of things. And I have had so many conversations with him throughout the years that have just inspired me so much. And so we wanted to bring him on the podcast just to share his heart, share his mindset behind why they do what they do in the production world. It's obviously a lot of visual, a lot of audio. And in my mind, I've seen a lot of things happen in life where you can have an amazing band on stage, but if the production world isn't doing their job right, or isn't doing a very good job, it doesn't matter how good the band is. So in my mind, the production world is probably almost the most important part of the band in a way, audio, visual, that kind of stuff. And I think at the same time, I know when the production side of things, it inspires me to play better. If I know it sounds good, it looks good, all that kind of stuff. So we wanted to pull him in here, talk to him, hear his heart, hear his mind, and hopefully just inspire you guys listening, because it's just such an awesome, I always, seriously, every time we have a conversation, just get inspired. So Jonathan, thanks for joining the podcast today. How you doing today?
Good. Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
buddy. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, do you mind telling us a little about yourself, like just kind of how you
Yeah.
got started in production, what took you there? Because I know you didn't start there, and kind
No.
of had an interesting road to it, which is really cool. So you mind kind of
Probably the weirdest path that a church staff person could take ever.
Oh, those are always the best paths.
So, I actually went to school for youth ministry. That was going to be what I was going to do for the rest of my life. I wasn't going to change. There was
Dead set.
nothing but student ministry.
Yep.
In college, I was actually forced to take, just because youth ministry has so many, you never know what you're going to get into.
Oh, absolutely.
So they wanted you to have a very basic technical background.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted you to have a basic, like, here's how, like video editing, graphic creation, like all of that
Back
stuff.
then, it
Like,
was probably PowerPoint creation.
yeah, no, I think Photoshop and all that stuff was around, but it was for sure. But it wasn't like Creative Cloud is now, right?
Yeah.
It was very basic, and
Absolutely.
So anyways, so that's what I was doing, right? I mean, that was my calling, and I was going to go full on into it. My whole family has been very technical. My uncle actually was my Uncle Steve. We had a saying in the Rasch household that nothing is ever broken. It's just waiting to be fixed.
Oh.
It's very kind of Bob Ross-ish, I guess.
Was he painting a photo? Or
And
painting a
no, he
picture
wasn't
when
painting.
was
He's
saying
usually
that?
fixing, probably like fixing some, PA speakers he bought
Yeah.
from a bar or something.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Covered
That's
in
the best.
carpet and felt and smelled like beer, so just like he would do stuff like that. Like he would just buy stuff. My dad was the same way. So, so I grew up in a very technical family and just always loved technology. So going into college, graduating with a degree in youth ministry, also getting some formal training from some really, really good tech guys in just big church world and kind of experiencing that. Was out at Church on the Move during that time in college. Was amazing experience and got to do some stuff there and hang out with those guys and learned a ton about not just student ministry, but tech and production, and just got a bigger view
Yeah.
what it could be.
They do some. If you haven't ever seen Church on the Move, what in Oklahoma? Where are they at?
They're in the Tulsa area.
Tulsa area. Check them
Multi-site
out
campus there.
online. They do
Church.
some really, really cool
Yeah.
stuff. That
Very creative.
yeah, absolutely.
So then I, did flash forward, and I went into, I started working for a church in Florida after college. And it's called Bayside Community Church in Florida. They're also an incredible church. And just, again, learn more. I got hired there part-time doing the weekend setup because it was a church of about 1,500 people
Okay.
meeting in a middle school, and everything was set up. So we would go in Friday, and I ran the crews, and we would set up the auditorium.
Oh wow.
We'd say, and we were flying truss and all that stuff, right? I mean, it was a pretty cool, legit setup. There were stage designs that would have to go up.
Really?
All of it. Like, it was big. It was pretty cool.
Wow, that's amazing.
A lot of fun. And then we'd go through all the classrooms and we'd set all those up and things like that. And then on the weekends, I would lead the middle school group. So did that for a couple years. It was really hard for my wife and I to live in Florida and be away from family.
Yeah.
It's just a tough state to live in.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So we felt like we needed to move back to Illinois, where I was from. And so we did that, and I eventually ended up getting a job as the assistant facility director.
Nice.
For a church called the Vineyard Church of Central Illinois. Now, they're a pretty large multi-site church there, and at the time they weren't. They hadn't launched any campuses yet.
Okay.
But I actually was working. I was a facility director for an Alzheimer's special care unit.
Wow.
I've always kind of done construction and facility work and stuff like that. And I was making actually pretty good money. And my wife, we were just attending the Vineyard, and they posted an opening for assistant facility director.
Oh, wow.
Huge pay cut. and she's like,
awesome.
She's like, babe, you gotta apply for this. This could be like your chance to get in and start doing some youth ministry and stuff again.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of the ultimate goal. Was I wanted to get back into that.
Absolutely.
And I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. There's no way. Like, it's a huge pay cut. I'm not doing that, you know. And then I get a call from them some weeks later saying, hey, we got your application. Want to schedule you for an interview. I'm like, wait, hold up.
Whoa.
I didn't fill out an application. My wife did. So
that's amazing.
she fills out an application for me.
I don't think I knew this part of the story. I knew you worked there, but I didn't know that part of it.
I applied. I showed up in a suit. They made fun of me because they're very casual.
Nice.
They made fun of me. I got the job that day.
Probably because of the suit. They knew you
probably
did business.
Because of the suit.
Yeah, they were intimidated.
Yeah. And so I started.
You know what we call that? Power move.
Exactly.
Wearing a suit.
Yeah. You got a suit, and everybody else is in t-shirt and shorts.
That's right. I'll be your boss soon. I'll be your boss soon.
It definitely felt uncomfortable. I will say that.
Did you have a tie on?
I did have a tie.
Oh,
I mean, I went
amazing.
the whole 9 yards.
That's
okay?
amazing. I love it.
But I just came from the corporate thing, the corporate world, and that was expected. So anyway, so I start working there. Long story short, I transition into the middle school pastor position because the guy who was there previously, I was actually volunteering under, ended up retiring.
Okay.
And so then I stepped into that, and then from there I stepped into being the student pastor over everything, and that's kind of where like I really started cutting my teeth and doing some cool stuff. Like we were doing crazy production stuff, and the weekend service wasn't that great. Like for the adult service.
Yeah.
But then you come to the youth service, and we're doing it was an experience. Like from the ground up, that was my whole goal. Was I wanted to create an environment where people could almost forget they were at church and forget that, you know, and just like, and they could experience Jesus in a really modern and different way.
So explain that real fast, because I think depending on who you are, you're going to take that a lot of different ways.
You will. You could.
You want to forget that you're at church. So what do you mean by that?
So
I think that's a really...
In the context of what I was doing, it was a little more of an inner city ministry. And there were a lot of kids that were afraid of coming to church. I actually had some students tell me, dude, before I came here, I wasn't sure I'd actually survive this. Like, I legit was scared of what I was going to walk into.
Yeah.
Like, that's a real fear. And I think that actually translates to a lot of unchurched people.
Yeah.
If I go in there, I might not come back out.
Yeah,
those people are weird. And I wanted it to be, so I wanted the experience from the parking lot to my student auditorium to worship, I wanted it to feel very much comfortable enough, not so much secret. I wanted to preach the gospel. I wanted to like bring truth. We wanted to do all that stuff. But I think we were so focused on kind of blazing a trail where it was natural. It felt natural to an unbeliever.
Yeah. And I think
I didn't need to do that for my student leaders. They're already churched, right? Like they know what church is. They know what to expect. But it was important for us to go, these other kids don't. And if we want to reach them, not only are we going to go out there, but we also need to get them in here so that they can experience worshiping with a corporate body.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to look like Chris Tomlin's amazing. Don't hear me say that. But it didn't have to look like a Chris Tomlin worship set.
Chris Tomlin's amazing.
He
We're just
is.
going to throw that out there.
No. And like, and that's great. Like if that's what you love, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to work for those kids.
Well, but isn't that kind of, so like I always look at it like Chris Tomlin, when he first came out, I remember I was in like early high school and it was revolutionary. And
it was revolutionary.
I remember back then it was, that music is not church music, all that kind of stuff. And so now it's like he's become kind of the standard, if you will, of that kind of sound and stuff. And now it's like it's always like every generation kind of has to like almost pass that hurdle of, well, that's not church because we've seen it this way. And I think that's why I love working with you, love talking to you so much, because you think in this way of it is how do we take almost kind of the things that don't matter out of the way so that people can hear the gospel, and how do we create rooms like that or environments like that where it is a place that relates to the people that, because it's their culture, it's their community.
Right.
And then how do we relate that to the way the room looks to then just show people who Jesus is? Because I think what most people don't realize is even doing that is showing people Jesus. Like it's not just the words that are coming off or even the songs, but it's the visuals and the passion that you guys put into it that, whether they realize it or not, is showing them Jesus in that way, which I think is always so amazing.
And that, and that's true. That was the goal. Was I wanted it to be different. I didn't want it to feel like church at all. I didn't want it to feel like a traditional church service, period.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be completely different, but just as powerful as a traditional church service, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, so we started doing rap worship.
Wow.
Like, nobody was doing that.
And what year was, what context of the year was that? Because now that's kind of more normal.
That was like 2010.
Yeah. So
right?
that wasn't like a thing really back then.
No. And as a matter of fact, I had people come in and I mean like grill me.
I'm sure.
Wonderful people.
Yeah.
But they were not. I mean, rap.
Yeah.
They heard rap and the instant reaction was anger. This is sinful. I'm like, but why is that sinful?
Because that's probably the context they knew it in.
And that was the context of they knew it. So we set out on a path to redeem that whole culture. Yeah. It was like, I don't know anything about rap.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not rapping, but I knew that was a culture that we needed to, I think God wanted to redeem. And so I went and found some people that could do that.
Yeah. And I want to take that thought and put it into the production world, because I think what can happen, in my opinion, is people can come into churches like Grace, see what we do, and they see the production side, and because of what they've experienced and kind of the way, if you will, the world puts it, is production is meant to make an artist look cool, draw your eyes to that person, that kind of stuff. And so I think when we come to churches, it can be kind of that same thing. So the kind of same thing with the rap, where it's like, oh, that's evil, that we shouldn't have that in here. Absolutely. And so I want to talk about that, because I love talking to you about that with production. There are extremes. Yeah. There are churches, and neither extreme is wrong. Yeah. People will gravitate to it being wrong, I think, based on their preference. Yeah. But that's literally just your preference. And that might offend some people, but I'm sorry, it literally is just your preference. Yeah. But the extreme is there are churches that have literally zero technology, and that's totally fine. Yeah. Because can you worship God in that? Absolutely. Yeah. There are churches and underground churches in China that are, they're doing stuff. Oh, absolutely. And, and they've got nothing because they can have nothing. Like, they can't have anything. So then the other extreme is big, massive sound. So, it's a concert experience. Mm-hmm. And I think then there's kind of a radical middle where we probably sit somewhere in that kind of just over the radical middle towards big production. Yeah. I think, we're still learning some things, but what I think is interesting is that the preference of a person plays into whether it's wrong or not. Absolutely. For me, my belief is the first thing that you see of God is that he created something.
He was creative.
Yeah.
I think the church, whether you prefer to be high tech or no tech, the church ought to look like the creator. And you ought to be creating. Like I just that is a core belief in me. So for me, for my ministry, the way I lead my ministry, if I'm going to, I want it to look like Jesus. Well, Jesus didn't heal the same person twice. Like he did. He was extremely creative in how he approached his ministry, how he would, and he would do things that would just, it would remove any doubt in anybody's eyes who experience it that this man is different. Like there is something to behold here. This man is majestic. He is not a normal human being, right?
Yeah. Oh,
like
absolutely.
he is absolutely God. And I think that in those moments, people saw the heart of God. They saw the heart of the Father. In that creativity, people saw the power and the wonder, and it sets you on a trajectory of going, well, if I can experience that, what else can I experience? Like, how else can my life be different? Like, it changes you when you see it. So when I go into a production thing, my preference is lots of production, because for me, I want to leverage everything on the table creatively to create a moment or create a space where people walk in and they go, that was so powerful.
Yeah.
I may not even understand what I just felt. I may not fully comprehend it, but I know something happened inside of me and I want to experience that again. And what happened was they experienced Jesus. Like you experience love, you experience, his power.
Yeah. Well, and I always think too, like with the whole, big tech, low tech, all that, like that becomes the conversation sometimes. And I think the bigger question is, what are you doing with the resources that you have? Right. Because I've been in areas where there's no money, no nothing, but we just start making stuff and it's using the resources that we have. So I think it can be an excuse for some people, like, I always don't have the resources. And it's like, well, use what you got.
Can be, for sure.
Yeah. And at the same time, if you have the ability to, and God's given you the ability to, like, use that to the fullest. And that's what I love about you guys and the production team, is you just use it to the fullest and say, how do we show Jesus through this? And that's what I kind of want to ask you about, is on a weekend, like, what's your thought process? I love the, Jesus was creative, God is creative, and that's amazing because I think it's so true. But like on a weekend, when you're thinking through the lighting and you guys are thinking about audio stuff and visuals now, what's kind of going through your head? What's your hope? I know you kind of hit on it a little bit, but what's your hope when people walk into the room? Why are you doing this? Like, I mean, you could be traveling the country, working with acts, and doing stuff like that, but you are doing it at a church. And I think that, what's your mindset of why we're doing this every weekend?
Well, I think it's, so I think when it comes to just doing, like, the starting point for a weekend service is, like, everything from the sound design to the way the drums sound, it's all very intentional.
Yeah.
We want to create very dynamic, big, immersive, sonic spaces, right?
Yeah.
We want it to be very big. We want lots of vocal effects. Like, we want it to be airy, want it to be very spacey sounding, and just because we kind of want to envelop you into that.
Yeah.
But then visually, really, it stems from the songs that are chosen, and we listen to the lyrics that are in that, and we go, how do I feel? Like, when I'm designing a lighting show, I sit there and I kind of just listen to the song 3 or 4 times. Mm-hmm. Like, what am I feeling? What am I hearing? And as I kind of think about that, I'm listening to the melodies, and I'm listening to the dynamics of the song, and I'm going, gosh, man, there's some energy that pushes here and it pulls here, and okay, like, I feel that, like, it makes me, it's resonating inside of me. What do I want? What would that look like? You know what I mean? So there's a lot of that where it's like, what would it look like to see what I'm hearing? Mm-hmm. And that's where production can be different, because it really is, it is very artistic.
Yeah.
A lot of people think production people are robots and there's, it's not artistic. It's extremely artistic.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a different art from the musical side because it's a service art. Oops, I just hit my mic. It's a service art.
Yeah.
In that we're taking what a musician has created and we're going to go, okay, so now we're going to create our side of the art so that it can serve a purpose
Yeah.
of people seeing and hearing, like experiencing the lyric of this song with all of the senses. Well, if you think about the lyric of the song, what are the lyrics? Well, the lyrics are biblical.
Yeah,
if they're biblical,
absolutely.
then it's Jesus speaking. So the goal is, how do I get people to experience with all of their senses what Jesus is saying to them in that moment?
Absolutely.
That's the entire goal.
Yeah.
Every weekend. And it's like, man, how does it... And we go through moments where it's like, oh, gosh, this song again. And it's hard because when we have song lists and quarterly song banks and things like that, it's like, oh, man, I have to do this song again. But when you start getting into the moment, it's like, I didn't hear that little piece before. And you can start creating little...
Absolutely.
nuances that change just a little bit and bring just enough back out to where it's like, oh man, that was powerful.
Yeah.
For instance, we were singing, it was a song a couple weeks ago where we sang it quite a bit. But one of our worship leaders, Charla Pear, was singing it. And I actually stopped doing lighting. I stopped doing anything to it. I made the lighting very static, but really pretty.
Yeah.
And I didn't move a single light. And I just sat and closed my eyes and just got lost in the moment.
Wow,
because it was
that's amazing.
so different with her singing it.
Oh, yeah.
Than it was with, I think Kurt White, who's the worship director for our Olathe campus. He sang it, the same song, both powerful.
Just different.
Just different.
Yeah.
And that's what's beautiful about lyrics and things like that like it, because it's Jesus speaking, because it's biblical, I think it brings life.
Oh yeah,
each time. So from the production side, it can. How do you keep breathing life into something that is constantly living? Well, you let it speak to you just like that. And so then when we redid the song just recently, I actually had a fresh eyes to see it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And so I sat in that moment. I worshiped for a minute, and then it was like, all right, now I'm going to bring something different out of this. I know exactly now. I want to change this a little bit. I know exactly what I want to do now.
Yeah.
And so,
well, I think that's the coolest thing.
Am I answering your questions?
Yeah, no,
Sorry.
that's great. No, that's awesome. Because I think that's the coolest thing that people can kind of, and going back to that thought of, oh, it's just a concert, is I think that's the beautiful thing of what you guys do, is it's such an act of worship. And I think people can not realize that sometimes because we come in with a cultural mindset of, I've been to concerts, this is why they do this, and then but to hear your heart of like, this is just worship. Like, I would argue that that's just as much worship as somebody singing a worship song.
It absolutely is,
and I think that's the coolest
it's how
thing.
I worship.
Yeah,
it's how my volunteers and my teams worship.
Yeah,
and actually, it's kind of funny. We'll have volunteers who will miss cues because they get lost in that worship.
Yeah.
It's kind of just like, man,
hey,
just do your thing.
Musicians do too. Musicians
you know
do
what
too.
I mean? So it's kind of like, no, but and that's true. And I think that's an interesting hang up for some people. It feels like a concert.
Yeah.
But is that bad?
Well, I mean, I think I would argue.
Did God create music?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think it's like anything. It's money. It's anything. It's what are you using it for? What's the purpose?
Exactly.
And
so I think that if we're having I want to let's be very clear. Every weekend is a concert.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you are amplifying your sound. It doesn't matter if you have a drummer or not. You have some form of a concert. If you are putting people on a platform where they're elevated to a degree, and they are facing a group of people who are facing them, and they are actively performing. If you have rehearsed and then you're doing what you would that is a performance.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's been happening since the beginning of the church.
Since the beginning of the church.
Absolutely.
So I think that's an interesting hang up that people have.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm gonna be a little risky here.
Uh-oh.
I think it's hiding the fact that it's a concept. I think people use that to hide the fact, like they're shielding themselves from feeling the power of it. I think it's very uncomfortable for a huge group population of the church today to feel the power of God.
Yeah.
Because it can be scary.
Yeah.
Like it can be like, it's overwhelming at times. Like what is happening to me? Why am I feeling the way I'm feeling?
Yeah.
Why, you know what I mean? And so for so long, I think we tried to like, don't feel. It's not about feeling. I get that.
Yeah.
However,
absolutely.
God created your feelings.
Absolutely.
So
No, I remember
him move through you and let him allow you to experience that.
Yeah. I remember in high school age time period for me, that was a big thing, is churches began to have kind of more production stuff and that, and it was huge about like, oh, it's just a feeling. It's becoming just a feeling, and that's not what God is, which I would agree with. But you could take that with anything, and anything used to the extreme would be a negative. Like if your whole relationship was based off of just reading the Bible every day, like that wouldn't be a good full relationship with God. But we don't say, don't read the Bible, like, you know.
Right, exactly.
But we do that with emotions, where it's like, well, if your relationship with God is just based off emotions, you know, that's a horrible thing. So we shouldn't feel emotions, and it can sometimes be like the extreme of that. Yeah. And that's where I think these conversations are really good. Not that we have it all figured out or anything, but it's to be able to just have the conversation of, but are feelings just bad? Like, did God not create them, you know, and want us to have them and to feel those moments of just absolute joy? Which, why can't things that He's created bring those things to us? You know, like I think in a way that's Him bringing those things to us as well.
There's a tension because
absolutely,
it's, you know, it can drum up negative feelings that Satan could use. You know,
totally.
There's a tension in everything. The tension in production is how far is too far, right?
Yeah. Oh,
like,
absolutely.
Should I strobe people at, you know, at 10 hertz, you know, 10 hertz strobe in someone's eyes? Probably a bad move.
Yeah.
But what is it serving, right? So like for us in production, I want everybody, whoever listens to this to hear this from me. We have a desire to go big. We want it to be loud. We want it to be massive, huge, huge, huge. That's what we want. Why do we want that? Because I think that when God showed His glory, the transfiguration, the announcement of Jesus' birth, like when He did some of those things, the conversion of Saul to Paul, when He did those things, what did He do? Like, He blinded people.
Yeah.
It was explosive, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was crazy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, He set a bush on fire.
Yeah.
He, like...
split a sea.
And not just a bush. I mean, a pillar of fire leading people through... Okay, come on.
Opened up the earth a few times.
Come on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nothing is going to shock Him. Can we impress Him? I've heard that before. Are you impressing God?
Oh, yes.
I think He's impressed that we're worshiping and taking risks.
Yeah.
I think that's what He's impressed with.
Absolutely.
And not impressed. I think He's proud of that.
Yeah.
I think He's proud that His kids are taking some risk and they're pouring everything they have into it. So when we go into a worship set, I want everything we are, who God created us to be, I want it to come out.
Yeah.
And there's a style in that. And so our style is that it's big, it's going to be a little louder, it's going to be bright, it's going to be dynamic, visually dynamic. I want people to, that is how we do things. Now, the tension in that. Is there a line that you shouldn't cross? Absolutely.
Yeah.
There are some things that just, I can do things, and I have done things in creating a set or creating a look or creating audio that was too far, and we cut it.
Yeah.
Because it didn't worship. It was more of it was more about me.
Yeah.
Look what I just did. And it's like, and you have to be very, very, very self-aware to catch that.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of people have been burned because I don't know that there's a lot of people who there are just some people who are not going to be as self-aware, and they're going to do crazy stuff. I don't personally like to strobe in a service, right? If it is a concert and it's like just me doing a gig, and
it's different.
It's, you know what I mean?
But I
it's
think
a little bit different because the context is different.
Yeah, but
in church, it's kind of like, can I achieve the feeling I want to achieve? Can I create the mood I want to create without this thing? If I can do it, then let's cut the thing, because it's just extra and it's not needed.
Well, but I think that's all artistry in some way, shape, or form. Is you're gonna, as you move around, and even with music, like I would do a song a certain way here, that I maybe wouldn't do it that way somewhere else, just because the environment, and that's just, like you said, being self-aware to some level. But yeah, I think it's pretty amazing though, what you guys. But I would say too, you guys do a great job. So we talked about the big, which is huge. But I think one thing I love about Grace Church, love what Ben has done for years, is there's different styles of music that happen. Sometimes we do folk weekends, kind of like that, and I think you guys just do such a great job at all of it. And so there have been weekends, like I think Christmas this last year was very symphonic. We had Kurt White do a lot of underscores with strings and horns, and you guys just made that the most beautiful visual experience that I've seen in a long time, if ever, and just represented that so well. And it wasn't, super in your face. It was big.
Right.
And that's where I think
very dynamic.
Yeah. But then we also have those weekends where it's just kind of folky or acoustic, and you guys and that's where I think you guys do such an amazing job. Like you said, some people can view production people kind of more robotic. But I think your team has such a great dynamic of artistry and that more technical side, which I think I'm envious of sometimes, because I feel like I don't have that technical side very much.
Well,
at
that's
all.
where, and it's like it kind of flipping that switch of going that concert feel to like concert feel. It's not the right term, but very energetic, lots of stuff going on, lots of layers, to a very majestic, intimate feel of that Christmas set that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Lots of layers, but it was just different. And that's where it really, like, that's why starting with the lyrics, starting with the melody, listening to how the song moves and breathes, because it's music breathes.
Yeah.
Well, that's the importance of doing that, is because and that's where your artistry can come out and go, oh man, this is a chance to do something completely different, but also kind of the same, but completely different. And so those are the really cool moments where you can go, okay, so we did big things here. Now let's take it big, but different. In a different way.
Absolutely.
And so that was actually a very stretching thing for us, because it was like, in concept, we knew what we needed to do and we knew what we wanted to do, but it was kind of like, how do we switch modes out of this?
Yeah.
And so it took some just kind of getting around and getting centered around the music, and that was pretty special.
Yeah, absolutely. It was beautiful. Well, I think we're going to be done here, but I do want to ask you one question, and this is just to kind of cap it off, is what is your hope that people see production at Grace as? Like, when people think of production at Grace, like, what is your hope that they kind of just think about when they think of you guys, or just Grace Church in general and production, and what you guys do here, maybe, is the better question. Is what do you hope, like, oh man, Grace Church production blank?
Yeah, I honestly hope people see that it's that Grace Production we can bring different levels, different styles, different feels, while creating the same powerful environment. I want people to know, like, when they walk into Grace Church, they're going to experience visually and sonically who Jesus is.
That's good.
That's what I want people to know. And while I don't know that we can recreate what heaven is like, I want to try to give a glimpse of what worshiping before the throne of God is going to be like.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's our goal, is that we create an environment of visual and sonic palette where people experience Jesus to the fullest.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I love what you said too of it's not about like trying to impress them. It's just, I think you're so right. If you think about it from just a father, son, father, daughter perspective on earth, you're not upset if your daughter or son tries to bring you something that they made and it's too extravagant or it's too ugly. You're just proud, and like you said, just proud, and I think just honored almost. Like we almost honor God in the way of just, you're just trying to do something to show your love to him.
Right.
And I think you guys just do such an amazing job of that week after week after week. And it's just a blast to work with you guys. So I'm glad people got to hear just kind of your heart, because I know on the weekends you're running around trying to get stuff done in between campuses and stuff like that. And I just know a lot of people haven't been able to just have a conversation and hear your heart of why you guys do what you do. And I know years of just talking to you and hearing the passion that you guys have has just been so inspiring to me. And like I said, not only from a visual perspective, but conversationally has inspired me to be a better musician and artist in all those ways as well. So it's just been awesome to be able to have the conversations, and I'm glad people are finally getting to hear the conversation. So one last question. I'm going to ask this to everybody on every podcast. Do you have any Instagram, Facebook, social medias that you're like, hey, if you want to just follow what we're doing, check us out on this, anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a Grace Church Production
All right.
Instagram. I honestly don't know what it is. What's the actual name?
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
But I do.
I feel you on that
on
one.
my personal, I do post Rash the Smash. I post things on our stuff all
right.
the time. Grace Church Production is.
That's
I'm pretty
Instagram,
sure,
both of them?
Yeah,
Awesome.
Instagram.
Very
So,
cool. Awesome. Well, if you're interested in just kind of following what they do, I follow you guys on Instagram. I don't remember the name either.
I can't.
Something like
I'm literally
GC
the
Production
worst.
or
I'm literally
Grace
the
Church
worst.
Production.
Yeah.
That's all right.
It is. It's Grace Church Production, all no spaces. Just
Okay.
Grace Church Production.
Very cool. And then, I follow that account and just show some really awesome stuff of what you guys are doing. And so thank you so much. You are our official first guest on the GC Collaborative
excited.
podcast. And I couldn't be more excited that this was the first conversation that we've had. So that's about it. Thanks, man, for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Wow, man, that was awesome. I love hearing Jonathan's heart.
Oh yeah, it's always amazing just to
Yeah.
sit down and talk with that guy. I feel like a lot of people don't ever get to like really sit down and talk to him, because on the weekends he's kind of running around, taking
Yeah.
care of stuff. So it's just cool to sit down with him and let him spill his heart, and hopefully.
I think one of the things too is the people on the stage, the relationship between the stage to the control room or to the booth is so important. And I think knowing
absolutely.
the hearts of the people that are telling you what to do,
Yeah, right.
really helps.
Takes a lot of trust. Seriously,
It really does.
I think that's amazing, and I think that's one thing I've always loved about Grace is there's a equal importance on production and the music and just
Yeah.
all the elements, and not just like worship is or music is king or whatever. It's everybody has an equal part and works in that realm, and so it's pretty cool
Yeah.
to see. So
Yeah. Well, good job interviewing him. That was your first time.
I was nervous.
Yeah. Well,
You were
great job.
supposed to be there with me to hold my hand and help me,
I had
and
to
then
go.
you pulled a power move, as we like to call it, and
did.
was like, I got something else I got to be at. Good luck. And I felt like I was just swimming in the deep end, no floaties, no nothing, just
kicked
out
you out
there.
of the nest.
Yeah, exactly.
Do this. You got it.
And my wings just started flapping so hard.
Yeah.
It's so nerve wracking.
Yeah. Well, so when's the next episode after this one?
So we are now planning, pandemic pending, another
pending.
one happens. We would like to release one on the first of the month every month for you guys. That way we can kind of, just like we've talked about this whole time, just hear people's hearts, communicate things to you guys. And so, that will be the next time.
When, how can people, if people have questions or about what we're doing or hear things, should they just email you?
Yeah, email llauber@visitgracechurch.com.
Okay, cool. So I hope you guys have a great summer. It is July, which this is getting into the thick of vacations and that kind of thing. I'm gone for like 3 weeks here.
Yeah, I don't even.
Kicking-
You're like
yeah.
you're going around the world or something.
No,
Just
no.
traveling from country to country, all 7 continents.
No, I'm not doing that. not good for the worldwide pandemic. But no, we are going to take some
valid.
time with the family. We're going to go to Florida for a week. And,
Yeah, you are.
Got some friends that are friends of our family who have a home down there, and they've graciously said, "Here, you can have this for your family." So we're gonna go do that for a week. Yeah,
I'll see you down there.
Awesome
What days are those? I'll be sure.
Yeah, come on down.
Just drop a pin.
Did I say Florida? I meant Georgia.
Yeah, drop a pin. I'll find you.
So, guys, thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we will talk to you next month. Luke?
Absolutely. And if you want, check us out. We have YouTube. GC Collaborative is on YouTube. We're on iTunes and Apple Music and Spotify. We have this podcast, obviously. And obviously, we are part of Grace Church, so go to visitgracechurch.com for the church as well. And just so you guys know, we want you to stay safe this summer in the month of July. Have a great time. But at the same time, please be kind and block off any weekends that you're not going to be available. That'd be awesome.
Planning Center.
Planning Center. All right, we'll see you guys next month.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the GC Collaborative Podcast. If you have any questions or would like more information, check us out at visitgracechurch.com.